Migrants arrive in a mountain town, increasing the homeless population 5 times over. The mayor is worried people will die in the cold. Denver is changing the way it counts people being moved off the streets as it races to meet the mayor's year-end goal. For nurses at Children's Hospital, it's financial insult on top of financial injury. First, the hospital backs out of paying their tuition. Now, they're stuck with a tax bill. And a couple who promised to run races together in all 50 states. It's a promise she's kept in memory of him.
I danced across the finish line. I was so happy to be done.
That's tonight on Next.
Denver is not the only community in Colorado struggling to help a large number of migrants. The town of Carbondale, outside Aspen, has so many migrants there, the mayor's worried about people sleeping outside and dying in the cold. Our Mark Salinger reports from Garfield County.
At the end of a months-long journey from Venezuela to America, Carbondale is an unlikely destination.
El Carbondale desde el sábado que llegamos.
Edgar Hernandez arrived in the town of less than 7,000 a couple days ago. For now, the back of his Honda is home.
En el carro con mis amigos. Somos 5 que dormimos en este carro y 5 en el otro carro.
He bought the car with his brother. It cost them several weeks' worth of salaries each, but allowed them to travel from Denver to the mountains. They couldn't find work in the city and heard the resort towns had plenty of jobs that paid well.
Si hay que limpiar un baño, yo lo hago. Si hay que lavarte el carro, tú dime, yo voy y te lo lavo rapidito, no hay problema. Lo que queremos es trabajar, pues.
Edgar is one of more than 125 migrants that have arrived here over recent weeks. In a town with no homeless shelter or services, the city says it's raised the homeless population by 500%.
We don't want to become a destination for more people. We can't take more people than we have now. We're really over what we can handle.
Ben Bonefolk is the mayor of Carbondale. Last week, he asked the state for more than $200,000 to help house and feed the migrants. He wants to help, but knows his town doesn't have the resources for all these people.
It's below 10 degrees at night most nights, and it will be for the next few months. So, yeah, if people sleep outside in those conditions, they might not make it.
An emergency shelter opened up to house 60 people at a time inside a building with extra space. The rest sleep outside in the parking lot and try and stay warm.
We don't want people to see these stories and think, oh, Carbondale's the place to go. They're really welcoming. We are absolutely not equipped to take more people.
Carbondale calls itself a small town with a big heart, but not even that mindset can help everyone who's come here.
Ya la vida es más buena aquí. Mil veces, mil veces.
In places like Aspen or Glenwood Springs, right near Carbondale, there are small homeless shelters, but even those with just the normal homeless population are overrun and often have wait lists. The shelter that they're using in Carbondale doesn't have a kitchen or showers to use, but at this point, that's all they have. For Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
City leaders in Carbondale tell us they think people are coming up there just through word of mouth. There's talk in Denver that there are jobs in Carbondale, so the migrants keep coming. The city of Denver is changing the way it counts who has been moved out of homelessness. Right now, the city is racing to meet Mayor Mike Johnston's goal of getting 1,000 people off the streets by the end of the year. Previously, somebody had to stay off the streets and stay in city-provided shelter for 2 weeks before they were counted. Now the city's counting them immediately. We started asking questions when we noticed an unexpected spike in the number of people that the Johnston administration says it is currently sheltering. With 20 days left in the year, the city says it has sheltered 491 people. A city spokesman told us that that includes more than 100 people moved out of an encampment yesterday. So under the city's previous tracking method, they would need to stay off the streets for 14 days to be counted. We asked the mayor's office when and why the city's counting method changed. They told us it hasn't changed, but the current counting system is clearly different from how the city has previously described its public method in the past. East Colfax is one of Denver's most interesting areas in every sense of that word. Tonight, City Council votes on a rezoning plan that would change how East Colfax looks and feels and moves. Denver is planning fast bus-only lanes, start at Union Station, go 5 miles east on Colfax, with mixed-use lanes going all the way to 225 in Aurora. This is Bus Rapid Transit, BRT. Planners think it could start as early as 2026. Council plans to rezone the areas around the bus stops to plan for more people walking around those areas. So wider sidewalk setbacks for new construction, restrictions on businesses that bring in lots of cars primarily, like drive-thrus and car washes. and a requirement that new buildings devote part of their ground floor to commercial use, the kinds of places that people walk in and out of in pedestrian areas. Existing businesses on Colfax would be exempt unless those stores build on top of their ground floor. This is a sweeping plan to change the way the city works. It would impact more than 600 acres of land along Colfax, from Sherman out east to Yosemite. Children's Hospital Colorado is still dealing with angry employees after it yanked a benefit out from under nurses. Children's had said that it would pay their tuition if they're pursuing a degree, until last week when the hospital canceled that. Whether nurses now quit or choose to go into debt to pay for their tuition, they tell our Steve Steger they are also stuck with an unexpected tax bill.
I wanted to go ahead and do the bachelor's degree to advance my career.
This respiratory therapist at Children's, who's speaking anonymously for fear of losing her job, she just found out last week that Children's isn't going to fully pay for the rest of her college degree like she had expected when she signed up this year. It was the second bit of bad news she got about that program in a matter of 3 weeks.
When I got the news, I cried. I bawled.
That was her reaction to the first bit of bad news. Another email from HR back on November 24th. A notice that she owed taxes on most of the tuition support she had already received, and that it would all be withheld from her paychecks before the end of the year, to the tune of about $1,800.
I had to take a cash out advance onto my credit card. I've got a 4.5-year-old who is very excited to see Santa, and he's so excited, what's Santa going to bring him this year?
Children said in a statement today that tax liability has not changed and that the hospital communicated it to employees when it started offering this full tuition benefit. The first $5,250 is tax-free. Anything else paid by the hospital is tax-like income to the employee, though a hospital spokeswoman wouldn't provide any documentation of that communication. She said Children's is notified when employees enroll in a program and tries to spread any tax withholdings out across as many paychecks as possible. This invoice came late.
It's a challenge, but the starting place is going to be, what was the agreement? What was the understanding?
9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor is an employment law attorney. He says these tax issues are tough for employees to fight, but generally, he says, employers react differently.
What I generally see is the employer getting it right, paying the tax, making it easy for the employee. And that is good, good employment practices.
So today I asked a company called Guild, the group that offered these tuition benefits to Children's, how often they send the bill to inform tax liability. They said it could take up to 3 to 5 months after the classes start for them to send the invoice to Children's. That might explain the delay here. I also talked to Traylor about the original story, this idea that a lot of nurses and staff at Children's Hospital were basically promised this full ride tuition and that it was potentially taken away when a lot of them are midway through programs. He says they may have a promissory estoppel claim, Kyle.
Estoppel sounds like a delicious pastry, but it is not.
Yeah, basically this claim kind of goes side by side with contract law. It says that the employer is understood to have made a promise to an employee. The employee understands that to be the promise and that there's some sort of detriment. So he says a lot of the employees who may have, already been in classes and took this tuition may not have this claim. But for employees who actually made changes to their lives to start to take classes and did it on this offer, they may have a claim in court to say, pay me the rest of the benefits that you supposedly promised me.
Promissory estoppel. Write that down and yell it at your boss the next time they change something in your workplace. Promissory estoppel.
Promissory estoppel.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
So what is the opposite of the Midas touch? Because it seems that everything District Attorney Linda Stanley touches turns to excrement. The Republican DA, who could lose her law license for a list of alleged ethical lapses, just had one of her murder cases tossed out by the state Supreme Court. Justices decided that Stanley violated discovery rules in at least 20 cases, failing to turn over evidence to defense attorneys on time. Back in January, a judge got so sick of the DA's funny business, the judge downgraded one of her first-degree murder charges to second-degree homicide as a quote-unquote sanction against Stanley. The defendant gets a lesser charge because of what she did. She appealed to the state Supreme Court and just lost. DA Stanley faces an ongoing ethics complaint before the same state Supreme Court. Legal regulators say she has repeatedly violated ethics rules and asked the justices to rule on whether she should lose her law license. FYI, you cannot be a district attorney without a law license. Legal clinics are being set up soon to help migrants in Colorado get work authorization from the feds so that they can legally go to work and support their families. Your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is like this close to raising $40,000 for those legal clinics that are being set up through Rose Community Foundation's Newcomers Fund. Thank you for that. Your donations have combined to raise more than $11 million for Colorado's nonprofits. And finally, this week, at long last, we're rolling out a feature that a bunch of you have been asking for years. A way to give to each weekly Word of Thanks campaign with a recurring donation, so you only have to put your info in there once. As always, if you have an idea for a nonprofit that we should be helping, shoot that to me at next@9news.com. The U.S. Forest Service is taking over a 14er, well, the good parts of the mountain anyway, to keep a path open for the public. And her retirement plan has burned tens of thousands of calories and taken her all over the U.S. A 76-year-old marathoner checks off her 50th race. Next. The state auditor's office says 7 state departments, including the governor's office, are illegally holding on to nearly $500 million in cash that belongs to you. Should go back and $50 million that should be going back to you in Tabor refunds, according to the auditor. State law passed in 2015 allows state agencies to keep up to $200,000 in uncommitted reserves, but the state auditor found that agencies were holding $48.5 million above that limit as of June. The judicial department had the largest cash hoard, $12.8 million. In comparison, the governor's office was holding on to an extra $300,000, and they've agreed to fix that by the middle of next year. That $48 million is really a drop in the bucket when you look at just how much is coming back in Tabor surpluses. The auditor's office says $3.6 billion will be refunded to taxpayers next year. The summit of one of Colorado's most contested 14ers is now public land. A guy who owns mining rights on Mount Democrat has a long history of closing off trail access to hikers. Access to Democrat and the 2 other peaks in what's called the DeCalibran Loop has been on again, off again in recent years. John Reiber, who owns mining land across those peaks, has shut off access at times in his years-long fight with the state over getting liability protections for people who own land, like he does. A nonprofit purchased 300 acres that lead to the summit of Mount Democrat earlier this year after Reiber was making hikers sign waivers in exchange for trail access. The nonprofit has now turned over the land to the U.S. Forest Service, and the Forest Service says, along with ensuring public trail access, they also think that they can protect the water on that land and wildlife habitats. Lauren Robinson, it snowed on Friday night, and all we're left with now after a sunny weekend is that nasty snow. It lives in the little dark pockets of our lives and is kind of junky looking. And I'll be honest with you, it's wintertime. I wouldn't mind a refresh.
You know, we do have a refresher in the 7-day forecast. That's the good news, but we also have temperatures approaching 60 degrees by the weekend, so I don't think that refresh is going to last too long. Right now, we have a live look out in Glenwood Springs. This is my favorite nighttime shot, how beautiful that is. We're at 43 right now at DIA, dry but very cloudy. Winds coming in from the east at around 10 miles per hour, making it feel closer to 37 degrees out there. As we take a look at our HG Doppler radar, we do have a couple of areas that are getting a little bit of precipitation. Off to the west, and this is going to be the foothills and high country west of Denver and Fort Collins. We're seeing some light snow showers through Red Feather Lakes all the way down to Estes Park, Boulder, and ending around Evergreen and Conifer. But of course, where it's a little warmer, we're seeing that precipitation fall as rain. So around Boulder, Longmont, Berthoud, this is where we're seeing those light rain showers push their way through. And then just north, we're seeing some light rain showers push their way through Raymer, north of Fort Morgan as well. So as we go through the rest of the evening, the northern counties are going to see those light rain showers, and then off to the west, we're going to see some light flurries. I think we're going to stay mostly dry here in Denver. Overnight lows near 27 degrees. And as we go into the day tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy and chilly as we wait for our next system to bring some snow in on Wednesday. And as we make our way into next weekend, the sunshine returns, temperatures approaching 60 degrees.
That we wanted to see the USA, stay in shape. Let's do a marathon in every state.
A Coloradan and her husband had a plan to see America and really get their steps in. 20 years later, she finishes the course alone, but with a lot of joy for her journey. Retirement is what you make it. Joyce Brooks and her husband decided to make it a race, 50 of them. And now, at age 76, Joyce Brooks has finally fulfilled their dream.
Los Angeles, Little Rock, Arkansas, Maui. I've never been to a city where people didn't cheer us on. That's the good thing about it. My husband and I and some friends did the Los Angeles Marathon in 1996. But when we retired in 2002, we decided that we wanted to see the USA, stay in shape. Let's do a marathon in every state, we decided. It says run the US, and I put a push pin in every state. I like walking because I don't run them. I wanted to do this long term, and I felt that walking would be easier. The people that you meet, and it's just fun seeing the cities that we go through, because when you're doing 26.2 miles, you see a city. My husband died unexpectedly in 2016 of a heart attack. Well, I decided I would finish what we had set out to do. So he's still kind of coaching me. Still was, because I'm done now. I did Alaska in July, Utah and New Mexico a month ago. And my daughter and I, she helped me finish my last race too. I danced across the finish line. I was so happy to be done. I've arrived, yay. At 76 now, I feel great. I actually feel better than I did at 32. So I encourage young people, take care of your bodies and just exercise. There's so many benefits in that. He would be cheering me on. So you did it. I knew you could do it. My #1 cheerleader.
Oh, that's beautiful. She has the most joyful laugh in the world. I love it. Joyce says she's donated all those funds raised through scholarships to nonprofits along the way. Back with one of your amazing holiday fails. Marissa has your feedback. This is a thick stack. Let's see what we got next. If you're going to put out those huge inflatable Christmas ornaments, be sure to properly secure them for the weather, lest you end up in our holiday fail segment. Next viewer named Amanda says she didn't realize anything was wrong until she got the doorbell camera notification. Oh, here comes the inflatable penguin all the way up to the front door. That's not where it's usually stationed. It's kind of a cry for help. You see Frosty there in the background? Amanda says she was able to save the penguin. They tethered that. Her husband goes out, makes a play for Frosty, but no, Frosty goes up and over the fence. Farewell, my friend. Enjoy your new life on the Eastern Plains. A lot of sartorial feedback tonight, so we might as well keep it with a theme, but great disagreement about the source of the material. Brad says, wearing Grandma's holiday couch tonight? Quite festive. Wes, 1950s bedspread for the win. Doug, this one's creative, saw the jacket tonight, couldn't help but think that somewhere there is a horse that is freezing. And Crystal, who says, is his wife mad at him? Why would she let him out dressed like that? This is my annual disclaimer, probably should have put it earlier in the year, that my wife and now my children are in no way responsible for my clothing choices. In fact, they specifically disavow most of them. Just want to make that clear. We'll see you next time.